Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to resume the meeting. I can see that you're all having such a wonderful time communicating with each other. It's a delight to know that you can come together and enjoy the pleasure of company with your neighbors and friends. But we're now ready to resume the meeting. We're going to be considering item 16. It's a discussion and any necessary action. Mr. Jackson, are you? Oh, there you are. Discussion and any necessary action regarding the intention to disestablish the El Centro Downtown Business Improvement District, known as BID, and schedule a public hearing for August 7th, 2012 to disestablish the BID. Presentation will be made by Marcela Piedra. Mrs. Piedra, please.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. The item before you is actually the process to initiate the disestablishment of the Downtown Business Improvement District, which, as you know, has been operating for a number of years. You may recall that back in the City Council meeting we held on June the 19th of 2012, we came before you seeking direction on how to proceed with the Downtown Business Improvement District. Per the direction we received at the time, you indicated to us to go ahead and proceed with the necessary actions as prescribed by statute according to the Streets and Highway Code, which creates business improvement districts, to initiate the disestablishment of our downtown BID. Before you tonight is an actual resolution of intention to initiate that process. Per the code, we are required to present this resolution of intention to you in order to start the disestablishment process. You will note that part of the resolution of intention, and again required by the Streets and Highway Code, we need to establish a date, time, and place for a public hearing to be held regarding this matter, which the public hearing needs to be held not less than 20 or more than 30 days after the adoption of the resolution of intention. In the resolution, you will note that item number 4, or section 4 of the resolution, establishes that required public hearing, and it's set for your meeting of the council of August 7th, 2012 at approximately 6 p.m. After council takes action on the resolution of intention presented before you, we will be mailing a copy of this resolution of intention once it is adopted and signed. We will be sending a copy of this resolution to the members, the BID members that we know are paying into the BID, so they are noticed that we are having this public hearing, so they may come in and speak to this matter. We also are required to publish this resolution of intention in a local newspaper, so we will be conducting that publication as well. At this time, this concludes my presentation regarding this item. If there's any questions.
Mayor, before your questions, there is a small change. The city clerk pointed out to me on the resolution. The address shows the adult center at the community center, and because we've been able to resolve the ramp for the dais, the address would be changed to 1275 West Main here at City Hall.
All right.
At the council chambers.
And that does not pose any other problem, does it? Anything? Okay.
And that's for the upcoming hearing.
All right. For the upcoming hearing, will be duly noticed then. Okay. Mrs. Pedro, does that complete your presentation?
Yes, Mayor.
Is there any question for Mrs. Pedro at this time? This is a public hearing?
No, this
not
basically is to initiate the disestablishment process, so it requires you to adopt the resolution before you.
I just wanted to make sure I had no speaker slips for that. I do not. So it is not a public hearing. What's the question, Mr. Jackson?
Yeah, I have some things to touch on item number 16.
Yeah, we're on item 16.
Pursuant to the letter that was sent out today, or I believe it was first sent out on the 13th, there was a correction to that letter and sent out again today. There's a lot of issues that are questioned I have questions on, and I don't think that we have properly addressed them.
Okay, a letter sent by city.
It was sent by and read into the record by Mr. Vasquez
okay,
today
okay.
from representing the downtown bid. First off, let's go with the council agenda report. It states that there's no fiscal impact to the general fund. I would contend that that's incorrect, that pursuant to putting the bid on hold for 2011 and 12, that Parks and Rec incurred fees associated with putting on the ice cream social for last fiscal year as it will this year. Those are fees that come out of the general fund that would not necessarily come out of the general fund and were being provided by the Downtown Business Improvement District. So the mere fact that they're stating that there is no fiscal impact to the city's general fund, I believe is incorrect and misleading. I will also say for the record that I believe the action that was taken last year to put the bid on hold and not levy fees was an illegal action taken by the council. If you look at the street and highway codes, it states that the majority of businesses have to protest. In the city agenda report, it states that several businesses came to the council in protest, not the majority. The street and highway code is very specific and states that action by the council can only be taken if the majority of the businesses protest, and the action to suspend and the levied fees was contrary to that and deemed by many as illegal and not something that can be done by the council without the majority of the businesses in protest. Additionally, the language that is stated in the council agenda report states that upon the, well, I guess to go back in the background where it says, on June 7, 2011, the El Centro City Council discussed the possible renewal of the bid, and based upon continued opposition by several downtown businesses, decided to suspend the bid during fiscal year 2011 and 12. This is the section that I deem was an illegal action taken by the city of El Centro. Additionally, you have language in here on page 3 that states that the method and basis that was used to calculate the assessment levied in the prior fiscal year 2010-2011 will be applied to the refunded amounts. That is contrary to the Street Highway Code 36551-.A that states that it has to be levied in the immediate prior fiscal year, which would have been 2011-2012, where there was no fees levied because of the action taken by the council. So the language in this report is also incorrect and contrary to Street and Highway Code 36551.A. And I'll read the section under California Street and Highway Codes. 36525A says, if written protests are received from the owners of businesses in the proposed area which will pay 50% or more of the assessments proposed by the levied to be levied, and protests are not withdrawn so as to reduce the protest to less than 50%, no further proceedings to create the specific parking and or business improvement area or to levy the proposed assessments as contained in the resolution of intention shall be taken for a period of 1 year from the date of the finding of a majority protest by the City Council. This section 36525 specifically says that the action that was taken last year was contrary to the Streets and Highways Code and, in my opinion, was illegal. Based on this information and based on the fact that there are other issues within the agenda report that are incorrect, I would at this point make a motion to reauthorize the bid and rectify the levied fees that were not levied in the fiscal year 2011 and 12.
Mr. Jackson, at our last meeting, I don't have a second to that, so I think that, but I do want to make a statement. At our last meeting, or several meetings ago, you brought forth that you were going to be discussing this issue. There was some discussion regarding whether or not your involvement with your employer, and you're located in the downtown area, whether or not that would preclude you from discussing this in the detail that you've already started to discuss it. I want to make sure that you're clear that you're able to do this without any unequivocal reservations.
I am crystal clear to the point that I ran to represent the city of El Centro, the citizens, the businesses of El Centro, that part of my platform was to stick up for and protect the rights of small business and to support our downtown. My position has not changed. I will not waver on that. Whether there are penalties towards myself, that's to be seen. But the issue here is that what's right is right and wrong is wrong. And hold on, I'm addressing the issue as you asked for.
I will allow you to have the floor, and you have 1 minute, sir.
Okay. So the action that was taken clearly is against the Street and Highways Code. And I think that we could probably ask our city attorney to clarify that, but it's in black and white. There was not a majority protest. It was not in writing. The action that was taken was contrary to that, which would make it illegal. Also, in addition to that, is you have a downtown that is struggling. You have businesses that are trying to make ends meet. You have a board of volunteers that have given their time, their personal finances to support the bid. And I think that it is certainly a slap in their face and all the efforts that they have made to try to improve the downtown and try to keep some semblance of a retail business sector in our downtown. The loss of RDA is certainly a blow to many areas of our city. I believe the RDA was certainly supportive of the downtown and certainly did what they could to support it. We no longer have the RDA to support that, as we don't have it to support many of the things that we'd like to support. You have an organization that sole purpose is to look out for the businesses in the downtown. The fees are levied to the businesses. I do not believe they're excessive. I believe that those funds, and I don't think that it's clearly been stated what the bid has done. Trash cans in the downtown provided solely by the bid. The banners and landscaping by the bid. The city taking on the project of redoing the planners was initiated by the bid board. The voice for the downtown is the bid board. If you take that voice away, if you cut them off, if you do not allow them to sustain what they are doing, how many steps backwards does this city take? We've all talked about the budget. We've all talked about where we are financially. We all know, everybody up here knows, that we don't have the money to take on the things that the bid was doing, to help the businesses, to maintain graffiti abatement that the bid was doing. They have an employee that's a part-time employee that works 20 hours a week that does cleanup, trash pickup, graffiti abatement. Is that something the city's going to absorb? Because to me, that seems like a fiscal impact to our general fund.
Mr. Jackson, we want to thank you for giving us that chronology of events that you have outlined that the bid has performed, but you know full well the city was an equal partner, if not a controlling partner of that as far as expenditure of funds and time of staff. But my question, sir, I want to make sure that you in no way are taking these steps with reservations. I just don't want you to find yourself in any particular going sideways, if you will, with the FPPC. Fair Political Practice Board by discussing this since your employer is located within the downtown.
I
Now-
have no reservations
Okay,
speaking up
since-
for the downtown of El Centro and the businesses that are located within that district.
Okay, let's go back and provide a chronology of what the city has offered to the bid. You know full well, because you sat on that bid board, as you've identified, how many times and energy and effort put forth by not only yours truly, Mr. Solomon, Mr. Silva, and Ms. Walker, in meeting with members of the bid board and trying to stimulate enthusiasm. You know full well the numbers of dollars and cents that were actually expended with staff. We hired staff for the downtown area. Now, when it comes to whether or not we have done something illegally, I think for that regard, I will point to the city attorney to clarify those points. But as long as the record reflects that I did raise the issue regarding the FPPC and you have no reservations in going forward with this, then I am not going to be in a position to withhold any comments you wish to have. But I will speak to the city attorney unless any other member of the council wish to. And I'm looking to the city attorney now regarding whether the allegations that are being made, which I think are quite strong by one of my colleagues here, Mr. Jackson, regarding the illegal action that he perceives was taken by this council regarding the bid.
Madam Mayor, I don't believe that Section 36525 is applicable to the action that the council took last year, because this addresses establishment of the district and establishment of the initial assessment, not renewal of the assessment.
Says any action.
Mr. Jackson, again, is saying, so that I can hear him, but perhaps Ms. Becker, you did not, he said he believes it refers to any action.
Excuse me, Streets and Highway Code Section 36520 through 36529 address the creation of a district and the assessment of the initial, the establishment of the initial levy assessment.
Okay. So, but Mr. Jackson's question is, was it deemed when we asked for it to go into hiatus in some way an illegal act on the part of this council?
I don't believe, based on the sections that control what this council did last year are Section 36540 through 36542, and based on my read of those sections, I do not believe it was an illegal action.
Okay. Now, Mrs. Beather, I'm going to ask you if you have any information that you can share with us regarding the city's participation, not only with staff, but also dollars that may have occurred over the last several years in the downtown area, so that we will see how much of a participant we were and how effective I think we were in trying to sustain the bid for a number of years.
Yes, as you know, this bid was operating basically since 2004. And since 2004, as Councilmember Jackson pointed out, the downtown bid was being financially assisted at one point in the amount of $20,000 financial contribution to the downtown bid. Obviously, as the fiscal situation for the redevelopment agency changed, that amount got reduced. However, even in 2010, we did contribute $10,000 to the downtown bid. The city, in whatever program it has established, has supported the bid, and I believe based on the last presentation when we brought this forward, it was Councilmember Walker who indicated that she wanted to see possible continued participation from the city to support obviously the downtown area, just like we try to do with other business areas in our city. With respect, I know Councilmember Jackson pointed out the purchase of the trash cans. I want to remind the council that that was basically, I would call, a joint purchase between the bid and also the redevelopment agency. So again, always trying to partner and support the business improvement district. Also in terms of staff, we did have a staff member from our department, economic development department, attend all of their meetings and disseminate information. Obviously also try to figure figure out a way on how we can provide support to the downtown. As you may recall, we did have also meetings that also included the downtown working group that was created by this council, and several of you had the opportunity to attend meetings with staff to discuss their needs and determine the future of the bid. So in terms of quantifying the assistance, obviously over the years it's been what I would see substantial for that area. And again, in whatever other way, we obviously have a graffiti program that the city has that could provide services to that area as well. The support has been there, and I'm pretty sure will continue to be there.
Mr. Silva?
Thank you, Ms. Sanders. I don't question and I actually appreciate the passion that Mr. Jackson has for this issue. In addition to the small group of business owners downtown, including Mr. Jackson, including the members of the bid board that I believe have had the best interests in mind for downtown. Ever since I got elected to the council in 2007, and every year that the bid came back for renewal, I expressed my concerns because I did not see where that passion and where that perceived benefit carried across the downtown. And I could see that based on how people voted, and people voted by by refusing to pay the assessment at the time. They voted by contacting us a year and a half ago, where we opted to put the bid on hold. They voted by attending the workshops that we had downtown, and I think they also voted by perhaps not participating in that volunteer group that we hope had been created. I think it's time. I think it's time to reevaluate this. I'm no longer in support of the bid. I hope that these representatives do come up with a volunteer group that will carry on the being spokespersons for the bid. But regardless for me of whether Prop 26 applies or not, and I know that was a topic of discussion the last time. I even in absence of that, I believe that the action that is being recommended is something that I can support. Again, nothing against the downtown people, businesses. I hope that we can continue to work together to better downtown, but it has to be done through a different mechanism. So for that reason, I will be supporting the action that is being proposed by staff.
Mr. Jackson?
Let me address one of the things you said, Efren, is last year you had a group of individuals, by minutes, it was several, and they came to the council and they said, we can do better. We can do what the bid board is doing for free. We can volunteer. You had a couple, kind of self-anointed spokespeople that came up and they said, get rid of the bid and we'll step in and we'll do exactly what they're doing and more. Where are those individuals? We put the bid board, or the past council put the bid board on hold for 1 year as a trial to see if these volunteers would step forward and be what they said they would be. The bid board reached out to those individuals to try to work with them and try to get them to do things in the downtown, and not one time did any of those members that protested ever participated in a bid board meeting, ever came up and said, hey, we still want to continue the ice cream social or the farmers markets or the Oktoberfest. Where are those individuals? Because they're not here today and they weren't there the day after the council voted to put them on hold. In essence, those individuals duped the council into believing that they could step in and that they would have the same passion as the passion that the bid board has to keep the downtown going, to represent the downtown, and to move that area forward in anticipation and try in hopes of trying to develop some kind of retail base or or evolve into a specialty downtown area that would complement our other stores within the city of El Centro. You know, to me, it's such a huge step backwards for this city to eliminate the bid board and the bid for so many reasons. One, financially, because you already saw the reduction of quality of life issues for the city of El Centro, the residents, for the county of Imperial. You had 3 farmers markets that didn't exist this year because the bid board was put on hold. You have Oktoberfest, which was put on by the bid, that didn't go on this year. So 4 quality of life events that this city had because of the bid didn't happen. And if the city wants to take on that responsibility, great. But where are we going to find the money? And therein lies the fiscal impact directly to our general fund. So the misleading statement that there is no fiscal impact by eliminating the bid is incorrect. There's already been a fiscal impact to the general fund in 2011 and 12, and there will be in 12 and 13 because Parks and Rec has taken on the responsibility of taking on the ice cream social, which will take place this Saturday or this Thursday. You know, you've got a decision that you have to make for the betterment of the city. You have a small faction of people that don't want to participate. They don't want to pay. You know, you have people that don't want to pay higher rates for water and waste, but we're going to have to make a tough decision to do something. We're going to have to find a happy medium. To listen to a few people that want to get rid of an organization that I think has been to the betterment of the downtown, and certainly is one less responsibility that this city has to take on, I just don't see where the common sense in that is. You have an organization that's funded by its own members. The teeth need to be put into it by the city, as it should have been from day one, so that the collections are 100%, because you have some businesses that want to participate, they'll pay their fair share, but their next door neighbor's not paying their fair share, so they say, why do I need to pay? So the teeth have to be in it from the city, which statutorily should have happened from day one. We need to collect those fees, so there's 100% assessment and fees levied to all the businesses in the downtown, which will then give them more revenue to work with and allow the downtown board to either put on more events or do more programs. I know one of the things that was talked about was items such as piped music in the downtown to try to stimulate, walking areas. And I know that worked with Miss Harold's plan for what's Peace. Thank you. There's all kinds of things that can be done, but as a city, do we have, as a city, the resources to say, okay, we're gonna put $20,000 into a system for pipe music in a 4-block radius? I don't think we do. In fact, I know we don't. I've seen the budget. Everybody up here has seen the budget. But you have the ability to allow this bid board to continue to get those fees and then directly benefit those businesses. Some people say, well, where's the benefit? Okay, there's trash cans, but they don't acknowledge that there's trash cans. I acknowledge that RDA was a partner with the downtown bid. I think that the RDA did a tremendous job in working with the bid. But why does it have to end now? Because we don't have RDA. In fact, we need it more today than we needed it last year. The elimination of the RDA is the main reason why we have to have the bid. Because there is no RDA funding. There is no, if the downtown needs street lights or they need new banners, the Christmas lights that were bought 4 years ago were purchased by bid money. There'd be no Christmas decorations in the downtown. But do the businesses that protest, that come up here and say that they can't pay $90 a year, do they understand that during the holiday season that all the Christmas decorations in downtown were purchased by the bid? Do they understand that their businesses are cleaner in the morning because they have a part-time employee that picks up that trash? Do they believe, or do they understand that the trash cans that are up and down 4-block radius give the people in the downtown the ability to throw away their trash? When I went on the bid board 5 years ago, there was 4 trash cans in a 4-block city radius. 4th Street, 5th Street, 6th Street, 7th, all those 4 blocks had 4 trash cans. You know how many they have today? 34. Was there participation with the RDA? Absolutely. Did the city partner with the downtown? Yes. But some of those bid fees that were collected and levied from those businesses went directly to purchasing those trash cans. There was benches in the downtown. I think there was like 8 or 10 benches.
Mr.
Now there's
Jackson,
20 or
would you-
25.
Would you yield for a moment for Mr. Solomon, and then we will give you the floor?
Sure.
Mr. Solomon?
One of the things that was stated was that there wasn't enough protests. There didn't seem to be any protests, so that meant that there was a majority in favor. If you've gone to some of their meetings, you would see that the only people that were at the meetings were the people that were on the board. So, and plus, being a director of the Small Business Development Center, helping small businesses, I had most of my complaints of being asked to pay money when they were trying to make money, and $90 or whatever their amount was for them a little too much money. I don't believe you can get a majority of the businesses down there to say that they support it. I think you would find more people in opposition to it than you would in support of it. Plus, one of the things that the city tried to do was to get the property owners involved, the people that actually own the building, to get them to say, for example, that they would cover the cost of whatever their building fee came up to be. We could not get, I think it was 3 businesses out of all of the businesses downtown said that they would do it. Everybody else rejected it. So if you have the property owners not willing to pay, and you're asking the employees, the people who are renting from you, and their employees to pay, that to me is almost like stealing. So my response to this is, I'm not in support of it. I agree with staff that this is time to cut it loose.
Mr. Jackson, we will provide you the floor again.
27 cents a day at $100 a year. That's what people are complaining about? 27 cents a day? They can't make it because we're assessing them 27 cents a day. Unfortunately, I would have to say, as harsh as it sounds, then they probably shouldn't be in business if they can't afford 27 cents a day. That is not going to bankrupt a company. That's not going to put somebody under. And going by the comments by my colleague, Mr. Solomon, I don't think that we're going to find a majority of the people in the city of El Centro that want to increase our water and wastewater rates. So using that same philosophy, should we abandon that position that we shouldn't increase them because we know the majority of the people probably are against it? That's not logical. If you go to 100 doors in El Centro and ask them, hey, we want to increase the wastewater rates and the water rates by 6%, you okay with that? You think you're going to get a majority of the 100 people to say yes? No, they're all going to say no. So the philosophy that because the majority didn't show up in protest, just because they didn't show up means that they probably don't want it anyways, we should go ahead and make that decision for them, is irrational and quite honestly ridiculous. I mean, people are not going to support things when it comes to fees. That's just the way it is. But our position as a council is to make decisions based on what's best for the city. People don't like eminent domain. That's a horrible thing to do. But sometimes we are charged with tough decisions to make that's for the betterment of the city of El Centro and the citizens that we represent. And sometimes we have to make decisions to eminent domain something against the will or the wishes of a person or an individual. But we make those decisions because it's the best thing for the people and for the city that we represent. So if the majority of the downtown businesses want to do it the proper way, and they want to protest in writing and they want to do it the proper way, then let's see it. Let's see them come to the council. Let's see them do the documentation. Let's see them do the protest the right way. Let's not cut corners. Let's do it the right way. I'm asking that we authorize the bid for 1 more year, and we let and maybe we go ahead and as a provision, we go ahead and just say 2011 and 12 is a wash. We don't levy the fees, even though I believe that the action was improperly taken. But I think the bid board wants a chance to prove, and I think that the city has a responsibility to provide to that bid board that puts so much time and effort into it to levy the fees at 100%. That means if the individual business doesn't pay the levied fee, that they don't get their business license. Just like if they don't pay for insurance, they don't get a license. In my business, if we don't pay for workers' comp insurance and general liability insurance, we don't get a license to provide service. Why is the bid any different? It's a levied fee that is supposed to be attached to their bill, but we've never enforced it as a city. And then we blame the bid board for their failures because this city has failed them. This city has not collected. I'm not done yet.
I know, yes, sir.
The city has not.
Mr. Jackson.
I'm not done.
No, point of order. Point of order. If you're going to make allegations that are as strong and as harsh, if you are passionate about this issue, I have provided you ample time to express that passion. I do not want to do anything other than give you
Then I
ample
ask for
time.
a couple more minutes to wrap
I
up.
want you to exercise decorum.
I have no
Please,
problem
sir.
with the decorum. I don't
Please.
believe anything I'm saying is out of order.
Well,
the
you're
city,
saying-
the city is charged by statutory law to assess and collect the fees. Am I incorrect by that, Ms. Becker? That the city, under the Streets and Highway Code, are charged with assessing and levying those and collecting those fees for the bid?
Well, the state code gives the city the ability to do so. It's the annual resolutions that allow
Correct.
for the
So-
continued assessment.
The mere fact that the city did not collect the fees and did not associate the collection of those fees with the restriction of a business license, per se, is a failure of this city to support the bid.
Mr.
That's
Jackson,
not
Mr.
anything
Jackson,
but
I
truthful.
think that is disingenuous at best, and you know
It's
it.
absolutely correct.
It's disingenuous at best.
No, it's not.
It is.
What's
And you know
disingenuous
full
is
well
this
you-
council
Mr. Jackson,
not acknowledging the bid board
Mr.
and
Jackson,
the people in the downtown.
Mr. Jackson,
That's disingenuous.
Mr. Jackson, you know full well the number of times, the amount of energy, and Ms. Pedra has acknowledged the amount of money that has been expended. You know full well you were not able to collect those fees. You wanted to do this, you, the bid board, and I say you, and I'm meaning the bid board, and since you were a part of the board, obviously I'm identifying yourself. You wanted to collect these fees. You wanted us to take a hands-off approach, give you free rein to do this. The council did everything they could, modified, except say that those fees would be attached to receiving a business license. We told you up front that this council was not in favor of doing that. You were objected to that, and you still object. Now, we have an item before us.
Let me
in-
correct one thing you just said. The agreement that the city council made with the bid board was not to collect the fees, but was to collect past due fees.
You made the agreement that you wanted us, the city, you wanted the city to attach the fee to a business license. So if the fee was not paid, the individual business would not receive their license.
Correct.
All right, then I rest my
But your
case.
comment that
I
there
rest
was an
my case,
agreement
Mr.
by the
Jackson.
city with the bid board to collect fees is incorrect. The city agreement and the administrative agreement with the bid board was to collect past due fees, not current levied fees.
Mr. Jackson.
They are two different things.
But, yes, I don't know, he doesn't have a second, so his motion is dead. Mr. Silva, please.
Well, I'm going to go back and basically say the same thing. I appreciate Mr. Jackson's passion in this, and the few people in downtown, the board, that were as passionate and believe in their heart that the bid provides a value. I did not see that. I have not seen that in my years in the council. The fact of the matter is, a large majority of the businesses downtown and people that I've spoken to over the last year, that I spoke to as recently as a month and a half ago, I went out and privately spoke to a number of businesses. A few were supportive of the bid. Most of them were not, and these are not small businesses. They're good-sized businesses that said to me, it's time to cut it off. I think they did not see the value on their investment. They did not see what the bid truly provided. And I hope, say it again, that in spite of the lack of participation early on in last year, that in absence of the bid, in absence of this mechanism, that the people will in fact come together and create a volunteer organization group that will carry on that representation for downtown and that advocacy for downtown.
Okay. Gentlemen, we've heard quite a bit of comment from the council, and we've certainly entertained the passion expressed by Mr. Jackson. What's the pleasure regarding this issue? And it's item number 16. This is to disestablish and then establish a public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution of intention to disestablish the Business Improvement District and schedule a public hearing for August 2nd, 2012 to disestablish the bid.
Okay.
Resolution number, City Clerk?
12-98.
What's it?
98.
Okay, I need a second. Okay, been moved by Silva, second by Solomon.
Discussion.
Discussion to the motion. 1 minute, please, Mr. Jackson.
Obviously, I disagree with this, and I do respect my colleagues and their motion, but I believe that we will look back on today as the beginning of the end for the downtown, and I hope that doesn't happen. But as we've already seen, we had a passionate group of people that wanted to, that said they could do a volunteer group, and it didn't happen. So I think, actions speak louder than words, and we've already seen their inaction is their action. Thank you.
Ballot, please. Your ballot, please.
Motion carried.
For the record, is Mr. Jackson's light not on? I just want to make sure because it's something lit.
Can we reballot?
Okay, so
Let's try.
City Clerk, read it out to make sure.
Reballot and
Well,
see.
she's going to have us cast ballots again.
Okay. Sometimes it lights.
There, okay.
Still,
Well, that light may be burned out. So if the city clerk could just read it.
Your light may be on. Well,
the
we'll do a
motion
roll
would carry
call.
3 with 1 no from Jackson.
For the record, I am voting against the action.
Okay.
And we'll repair that light. I apologize.
If
I have to vote yes on everything?
we would anticipate, with the passion that was expressed here tonight by Mr. Jackson, will percolate up, and those members of the bid board would use that as a means of going forward. And if they have as much passion as he does, the downtown should be very successful and should thrive.
For the record, no disrespect to my colleagues or city staff, but yes, I am passionate about the issue, and any comments that were deemed disrespectful, I apologize, but this is an issue that is obviously dear to my heart and that I certainly would have liked to have seen differently.
Thank you. Does anyone need to have a break for personal privileges? If not, we will proceed with item number 17. It's new business, discussion and any necessary action regarding the request change in administrative charge to the city to a city agency, El Centro Regional Medical Center. Mr. Calderon, are you still with us? Yes. Okay.
Good evening, Major Sanders, council members. Good to be here. At the direction of the City Council, by amending a city ordinance allowing the Central Regional Medical Center to move ahead and retain its own general counsel, The Board of Trustees, with the assistance of the city attorney and the hospital administration, went ahead through the selection process and retained the general counsel for the hospital. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I would like to request that you revisit the previously assessed and current administrative charge of $193,000 that the hospital pays to the city, hopefully reduce that, to allow us to, or assist us in covering some of the costs that will be involved in paying the retained general counsel. At this time, we have retained a local attorney, Pat Pace, and we have estimated that the annual cost is going to be approximately $170,000 for the hospital. And that was calculated at an approximate 15 hours per week at a rate of $210 per hour. Again, on behalf of the board, I'm just here to respectfully request that you revisit the administrative charge, and hopefully that will assist us in covering those costs.
Okay. Thank you so much. Is there any questions for Mr. Calderon at this time? Perhaps I would, Mr. Calderon, like to hear any comments made from the two members who serve as liaisons for the council, either Mr. Solomon or Mr. Silva, regarding, were you on a committee on this issue, Mr. Silva?
No, I was not, Madam Mayor, and unfortunately I was not able to attend the last hospital board meeting. But this is something that we've discussed as a council now for quite some time, and wanting to relieve the city's direct responsibility of providing counsel, and the direction to move in this direction was given by us. So I do believe that it would be responsible to go back and revisit that administrative charge that in the past did provide legal counsel to the hospital, and be able to alleviate the hospital's budget with that money. I believe, Mr. Duran, I recall seeing communication from you to the hospital where you were trying to come up with a compromise.
Sometimes the willingness to try to assist sometimes flies in the face of what the council has directed me to do. So part of that was trying to help them through a process. What would I think would be helpful in this process if the council took formal direction to direct staff to develop what we believe are the costs and bring that back at a council meeting, because when this was developed in 1998, I think it was, or prior to 1988, there was no consideration other than attorney and city clerk. As you know, I'm also the city treasurer, which is also the treasurer to the hospital, and our finance director has some involvement. Again, I think there is an opportunity to make an adjustment. What we'd like to do is provide you with the information, and then you still decide what that number should be. I mean, because it is, at the end of the day, it will be a policy, as it was in 1998. Actually, it was a much higher number, but it was discounted back to 193 back in, I presented that once before to the board, and I forgot what year it was, but it was discounted back because the hospital needed a discount. So with that, we think we could pull those numbers together. Because of some vacations that are coming up, we'd have it back for the second meeting in September.
Okay. Mr. Jackson has a question for either Mr. Calderon or staff.
Mr. Calderon could probably answer this. Although I'm happy to see that you went with a local attorney, I know that there was some conversation about some of the hospital firms, some of the attorney firms that predominantly handle medical. My question would be is, how much outside legal services would we be needing that maybe Mr. Pace couldn't handle internally? Would we have to contract out, and how would that affect the overall number? I know the $193,000 that was built into the city's figure probably anticipated some of that outside legal support, but you're already looking at $170,000 just for Mr. Pace. I would think that $23,000, the balance of that's probably not near enough to retain outside counsel for specialized services.
Well, our approximate cost for contract attorneys, in addition to the legal counsel that was provided by the city attorney, is somewhere around $450,000. Now, The idea is that Mr. Pace will help us with some of the contracts, as he does have experience with that. However, we would still be requiring outside counsel for more specialized legal issues. Currently, we're in discussions with Palomar Pomerado Hospital. Administration has been meeting with them, I think 3 times in the last couple of weeks, and their legal counsel, chief legal counsel, I'm sorry, will be here, I believe, Thursday, and I think they will be paying a visit to.
He's right in front. Mr.
Yeah, I think they're going to be here in town on Thursday. Yes, and the discussions are centered around the possibility of them providing us additional legal counsel that would reduce our extreme cost, and by way of doing it on a flat fee. We've been collaborating with them in the last year, and right now they're offered to assist us with that. They have a team right now of 3 attorneys, pretty soon to be 4, that cover different scopes of healthcare legal issues that were not currently being provided by the city attorney. And the idea is that by contracting with them, collaborating with them, they would be providing us additional assistance to reduce the cost that outside counsel has for the hospital, which is a big number, around almost $500,000 a year. Now, with the assistance of the City Council, we assessed approximately how many hours would be needed for the General Counsel, and it was estimated at approximately 15 hours per week. The General Counsel selected and retained would be, of course, reporting to the City Attorney. However, that would free up the City Attorney to deal more with the city legal issues as opposed to the amount of time that she spends dealing with hospital issues. So we're working on reducing that cost of outside counsel, and the idea is that in the next 6 months, hopefully we'll have a better understanding of what the option is with Palomar, and then at that point we will be working hopefully with them in addition to the local attorney. So this is a work in progress, but at this time, the estimated cost for the selected General Counsel is approximately $170,000, and he would primarily be dealing with the legal issues that the City Attorney had been dealing with as far as the hospital goes.
One
have
follow-up.
additional questions?
Yeah, just one
Okay.
follow-up question is, certainly not suggesting that Mr. Pace has got the knowledge to do this, but $170,000 seems a lot of money. Wouldn't it just be more cost-effective to hire an in-house attorney that just works for the hospital? I mean, $170,000 is more than our city attorney makes.
Rub it in.
Oh, don't, you don't.
I mean, and this is an individual that's only going to be working 15 hours a week. So I'm just wondering, could we contractually just say that you want an attorney that works full time for you and have some kind of cost savings there?
Well, actually, an RFQ was published, and we had 18 responses. Out of those 18 responses, with the assistance of the city attorney, we identified only 8 qualified applicants. Most of them were from San Diego, Los Angeles, and Riverside County. Their fees were at around from $410 to $450 per hour. We had 2 local attorneys apply, and through the selection process, we identified Mr. Pace as having extensive previous healthcare background with regards to legal issues. He has also worked previously with the city attorney, so they're familiar with each other. And again, with the assistance of the city attorney, it was determined that that was the very best possible cost that we could get for the services at this time. Now, retaining a full-time attorney for the hospital that has extensive experience in healthcare and hospital issues is not very easy. It's just simply difficult, and it would probably cost much more than the $170,000.
Okay.
There's highly specialized. Yeah. There are some highly specialized areas. Right now, the compliance issues and with the increased regulation that goes with the Healthcare Reform Act, it takes a significant amount of research into these things continually. So there are specialists that the focus is becoming so much more specialized, just like with physicians.
Okay.
That there are some that do this and some that do that. The generalists, basically, we have in Pat. But the specialization, and the reason we were looking at Palomar is they're a district and can work with us as a fellow governmental entity. And since they've already put together a team of these individuals, our hope is that they can come up with a fee that would be much less expensive than going outside to the individual firms for these specialists. So I think what we've accomplished in doing this is being able to pull that research together so that we can cut our legal costs down by at least half of what it was before by using a combination of Mr. Pace and Palomar. And the potential, if it doesn't work with the local, of them covering the whole thing is there too, if that would make more sense in the future.
Right, so it's not, even though we have retained the attorneys with the understanding that over the next 6 months, the services would be reevaluated, and depending what kind of arrangement we can make with Palomar, then the services of Mr. Pace will be reduced.
Okay. I think there's a question by Mr. Silva.
Well, not a question, but more a comment. And I'm sure that at $210 per hour, that we're only going to use Mr. Pace when it's absolutely necessary to use Mr. Pace. We're not going to do what we did in the past when we had our associate city attorney in our city attorney office being present for every committee meeting. So those practices will be abandoned and will only be utilized when it is absolutely necessary to be utilized.
That is correct. We don't see a need for the general counsel to be present in every committee meeting. The 15 hours per week is just an estimate based on what the city attorney was spending at the hospital. However, we have discussed that in detail, and absolutely we're going to try to use it as selectively as possible within what's reasonable, still protecting the hospital.
Mr. Green, do you wish to add something to
I just
that?
wanted to point out, we're doing research and we're continuing to research all of the detail on these. But right now, the average cost to us was $250 an hour
250?
for the city attorney.
Okay. Well, I think if I can, what I'm gathering from your presentation and from the information we have here as in our packet, you're looking for a way to make some adjustments. I think at this point, I personally would be hard-pressed to do that. I was going to have to point to our city attorney to work with you to come up with something that's feasible as far as adjustment. We'll work with the city attorney and the city manager to do this. Subsequent to that, then we'll come back with some recommendation from them as to what this would be. I think Mr. Silver pointed to the fact, and maybe Mr. Jackson as well, yes, the council was, you were desirous, the hospital was desirous of having your in-house attorney or your own attorney. The council accommodated that need. Through that effort, city attorney and city manager work with you to try to come up with something. You sent out your RFP, you found a candidate that seems to meet the needs. Then you will work out all the details. I don't know that I need to know that. You'll work with our city staff, our attorney and city manager with a recommendation, and come back and we'll make a decision. Mr. Solomon, I think, may have a question.
Yes. The first time I worked on the hospital board was a few years ago, and I worked with Cheryl and Rosanna, and both of them were extremely high on the hospital having their own attorney. I mean, there were only two things that they really wanted to see: the two hospitals coming together on projects, reducing the prices, and the fact that they felt that the hospital needed their own attorney. And in the process of being on the hospital, me being on the hospital, gathering up all this information, I agreed with them. And one of the things that happened when Mr. Silver got on was that he picked up the ball and began to run with it, especially on the hospitals, and was very supportive of the fact that having their own attorney, the hospital having their own attorney, was a plus. I agree they should have their own attorney, even if it is the 15-hour, but I agree that the city manager ideal of working, trying to put something together even better with Palomar. I think that that should be a link that should be kept open. I think if we can do that, we can put something really good together.
I agree with you, and we're working on that. Unfortunately, Palomar wasn't ready a couple of months ago to make the proposal, but they started working on it, and we're expecting something from them in the next couple of weeks.
Now, all right. In just a moment, Mr. Given this information coming tonight, given the fact that the staff will be working with you to try to fine-tune these numbers, I say fine-tune, figure out where we can make the adjustments that would accommodate your needs as well as making sure that, I'm sorry, Mr.
I'd like to restate that. Our work is really, we're not looking at their legal costs. We're going to look at just the cost to provide administrative support.
No, you're not looking at their legal costs. You're going to be looking at, I would suspect, the cost recovery. Yeah.
On this side. Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
They have done their thing. Excuse me. That sounded a little too familiar, didn't it?
We certainly are not
already accomplished the task that you needed to accomplish. Your task was to hire the individual. You've done that. You've looked at other venues and where you might be able to pick up some level of expertise from several different areas. What our staff will be doing is looking at the costs and if there's an adjustment for this side.
Right.
And that's what I think you're trying to ask for. Am I capturing that?
Correct. It would become evident that the amount of time that the city attorney would be spending on hospital issues would be substantially reduced, and therefore we feel that a reduction in the administrative charge would be in order.
Okay.
Now, I don't have numbers, I don't have statistics.
And neither do I. That's why we're going to leave it there.
Right.
I would suspect that Ms. Becker will have some conversation with Mr. Pace to see initially how much he may think he will be relying upon her for some assistance through this transition.
We actually have met and had
all right, that's fine. I don't need you to tell me. I just want to make sure that the chronology of events are going forward and that everybody's on the same page as what's going to be required from the two entities, the hospital as well as the city. Now, I think that part is clear. Correct? Do we have it clear? Mm-hmm. We're going to work on what she can do as far as working with Mr. Pace to see whether adjustment can be made and how it's going to be made. You will continue forward with whatever you're doing with Mr. Pace and the other level of expertise that you may need.
Correct. We're currently trying to reduce the overall contract legal work that we retain because of the excessive amount of money, but that's a separate issue.
Yeah, but you're going to work on that.
Bring here before you.
You're going to work on that. Thank you. Mr. Jackson, you had a follow-up question. Okay.
First, I want to commend you, your board, Mr. Green, certainly Efren and Ben, that are working to try to reduce costs. I think anytime we do that, it's a plus. My only question I have is per the contract with Mr. Pace, is there any minimums or cap on the amount of hours that would be billable to the hospital?
Is that something you're prepared to share with us tonight, or is that something that you want to let us know later? I mean, that would be one of your board's decisions.
Well, actually, that contract was through the city.
Right.
That contract was through the city. Then maybe should the question be directed here or here?
Hello, Chris.
Well, we'll see who can answer the question for you.
It's actually, the contract is attached to your agenda as an informational item, and
Okay.
and no, there's no minimum and there's no cap.
Okay, there's no minimum and no
There's
cap.
no minimum and there's no cap.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
We're now,
So are we giving direction to staff?
yes.
We need direction?
Well, and if that,
do you
if
need a
there's a
motion?
consensus on that direction, we would bring that back, second meeting in September.
Second meeting in September?
Right.
Second meeting in September,
and
Ms. Ms.
right.
Caldwell, is what date?
September the 18th.
Okay. Mr. Green and Mr. Calderon, we hope to have something back the second meeting in September, which is September the 18th.
September.
Thank you.
Second meeting in September.
Okay. Unless there's any... You need to use the mic, sir. Come back to the mic, please.
As far as in September, when you give us the response, would it be with the estimated figures determined by city manager and the city attorney?
That's our
Those fi-
intent, is to provide a report, and
Yeah.
and then council will determine if,
Yeah.
whether they agree or not agree, or,
They're going to be coming back with a recommendation.
yes.
I just want to be clear on the process, what to expect.
All right. They'll come back with a recommendation. The council will look at that and make a determination as to whether we think it could be modified even more than what they suggest, or if it should be greater than what they suggest. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no additional question for Mr. Calderon or
We
Mr.
have our
Green.
direction.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Sorry for the lateness of the hour. And we still have more to do. And we're ready now for item 18. Do we have some folks still here for item number 18?
Ms. Piedra?
Mrs. Piedra, okay. Discussion and any necessary action regarding the rejection of the bid from Eckhart Construction due to being non-responsive and awarding the bid for the Adams Avenue Indoor Sports Complex project to Duggan's Construction in the amount of $4,169,950. Presentation by Mrs. Piedra, Economic Development.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. The item before you, and as pointed out by you, Mayor, is to the recommendation in the staff report that was prepared and was included as part of your agenda, was to award the contract to Duggan's Construction in the amount of $4.1 million and establishing a contingency fund in the amount of $416,995. However, since the posting of the council agenda, additional information has come to staff's attention, which has resulted in a change to this recommendation included in your council report. Council at this time, staff is recommending at this time that council reject all bids and go back out to bid at a later time. The recommendation was developed in conjunction with our city attorney's office, and at this time, I'll be deferring to our city attorney.
Ms.
you.
Becker, do you want to add some points of clarity for us on that?
Yes, thank you very much. As Ms. Piedra has stated, after the agenda was posted, additional information came to the attention of not only the staff, but also to me. So therefore, we met in conjunction with that additional information. Staff's recommendation has changed in response to that consultation with the city attorney. And then based on the potential for litigation surrounding the information that we received, it's my recommendation that this item not be discussed further in open session. However, I believe you should open up the matter to see if any members of the audience would like to comment on the agenda item.
Okay. So council can hear comments from, I have 3 speaker slips. We can hear the comments from the speaker slips.
Yes.
Council itself would not engage in any discussion on the matter pending the potential for litigation.
That would be my recommendation.
All right.
But the council will need to take action tonight. So either take action on staff's
the-
recommendation
Or something.
Or
something else.
Okay. Thank you. I do have some speaker slips here. I have a Troy Eckert, Ryan Hagel, and Robin Russell. When you come to the podium, since I called all 3, will you let me know which one you are, sir, please?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council, staff. My name is Troy Eckert.
Okay.
I'm the president of Eckert Commercial Construction. I live at 13489 South Avenue 6 3/4 E in Yuma, Arizona. First, I appreciate your service. These are long evenings and lots of decisions to be made, and I appreciate your willingness to hear people and their opinions. Tonight, I'm here to speak regarding the initial recommendation from staff that the bid that my company placed, which is, in my opinion, the low, qualified, and responsive bid in all ways, shapes, and form, be accepted and awarded to Eckerd Commercial Construction. There appears to be a little bit of a communication problem that resulted in two items that the staff made their initial recommendation to state that my bid was not conforming. The two issues, one has to do with a compliance issue on listing of subcontractors. I believe through poor communication, not necessarily intentional, but just a lot of general questions being asked without specifics. Some assumptions were made by staff on whether or not I was using a subcontractor, in this case the subcontractors called Tot Lots, to do work in the amount of $66,000, which would be in excess of the 0.5% requirement. The fact is that Tot Lots, and I never had intention, I didn't use their numbers, to award them a contract of $66,000. If you read, and I don't know if they have the quote from Tot Lots, but the bottom line is they're an installer of specialty equipment. Part of their quote for $66,000 included work that I had clarified that I was self-performing, i.e. concrete work. I self-perform my own concrete work. My own crews do that. 3 of the 4 items on their bid were concrete work. The value of that is in excess of 90% of their quote. I had no intention of using Tot Lots, so I didn't list them. I had no requirement to list them because they did not meet. In fact, the only thing I would use Tot Lots for, and it's optional, it's a buyout item for me, is whether or not I decide to use them to assemble the specialty equipment. I've assembled this equipment before. I've installed this equipment before. I don't really need them to do the work. That's the plain facts. I have no intention of using them for a contract anywhere that would close to amount. It might be about $8,000 would be the value of them assembling that specialty equipment. Nevertheless, the bulk of the work I would do myself. The second item I'm going to let my attorney address with respect to the qualifications as far as the validity of that being grounds for a material defect in my bid, which I believe it is not a material defect to my bid.
Okay.
I'll let him address that issue. I don't want to cover the same ground twice. I know you guys have been here a long time, and I'll keep it brief as I can. But the issue of my qualifications, I've been in business as a contractor for over 20 years. My company, I was a partner in a previous company. I didn't list the experience from that company because I'm bidding as Eckerd Commercial Construction on this project, and so my previous experience is not necessarily allowed to be submitted because it was with a different company. Nevertheless, that doesn't, take away from my experience and my ability to perform. However, my company, Eckerd Commercial Construction, has put up literally hundreds of thousands of square feet of pre-engineered steel buildings. This is a pre-engineered steel building, 26,000 square feet. It's covered with insulated panels. My company installs insulated panels. We put up literally hundreds of thousands of square feet of insulated panels. The selected supplier that is specified on this project, I have worked with for over 20 years. My crews are certified. This is a job that we are more than qualified to do. And I believe that any cursory examination of my experience and capabilities would validate that fact. What we have is some technical issues on the wording of the request that I believe are confusing and misleading, not necessarily misleading, but are open to interpretation. It is not a material defect of my bid. And the issue that we get to here is, what do you do tonight? Obviously, the motion in front of you to award to Duggins is not being recommended anymore because they have a material defect with their bid. My bid has no material defects. I've clarified the first issue. It was a miscommunication. I did not mistakenly or not list a subcontractor. I listed all the subcontractors who will be performing work on this job in excess of 0.5%. There's no question of that. I know that because I'm the guy that's going to write the contracts. All right? The second issue, again, I'll let him address. It's not a material defect. It may be something that needs to be clarified, but it's certainly not a material defect with my bid. You got a lot of options here tonight. Your options are A, award this project to Eckerd Commercial Construction, as it should be, because I am the low qualified bidder. I'm a licensed, insured, and bonded contractor in the state of California. I am more than capable of completing this job. You had a good bid. Your city staff put out a set of plans. They answered the questions. They have a specification. It is a good bid. It is a good bid by the fact that you had 6 bidders. You have quite a spread, by the way, in the numbers, but the important part is there is a $24,000 difference between my low bid and Duggan's Construction, which essentially validates my bid. The same as my bid validates Duggan's, Duggan's validates mine. We essentially saw the job the same way. It shows that you have a good number. This is the best possible price for this project. You've got it. And my company submitted it. The way the contracting works, you award to the low qualified responsive bidder. That is Eckerd Commercial Construction. That's I think is the correct option. I can't, obviously I can't make you guys do that. It's my recommendations, my feelings. I'm biased on this issue, but I think I am right. I think that there is no defect with my bid. I wish you could ask questions, because if you do have questions about those 2 issues, I'd like to be able to clarify them. You do have another option, obviously, to throw them all out, which results in rebidding the project. I think you have a problem there also, because if my bid has no material defect and you throw it out for no reason, then there is a problem. And you got to work awfully hard in this economy to get a job. We spent literally over a month preparing this bid. We have a huge amount of time and effort and overhead and cost involved in preparing the bid. The way the bid process works is that it's meant to be honored by having a public opening of a bid. We all sign documents stating that there's no collusion, that we're not going to shop bids, we're going to provide subcontractors lists. That's because that's what's fair to the subcontractors. It protects them from being abused. When you have a bid that's already been opened and you have subcontractor lists that have already been made public, and now you have me talking about how I put my bid together and some of my potential advantages, maybe it was a misunderstanding, but I'm still giving you kind of the inside baseball look at how I might put it together one part of my bid. We have no longer protected our subcontractors. Yeah, will we rebid it? Sure. Well, 2 of us will rebid it. The other guys are so far out, I doubt they will rebid it, because they obviously don't have the same advantages that Duggan's or myself share in this job. But the people who will be hurt on this are the subcontractors, because they're going to get beat up to lower their price, right? Duggan's knows my number, I know his number. Somewhere there has to be some give, unless he's going to submit the same number. I doubt that. I probably won't either. I don't know how much give there is. We're already operating on razor-thin margins. And if you push this thing down to where you force people into a situation, because now the bids are known, the sublists are known, you're going to have people put into situations, I think, that are detrimental to their business. I don't think you guys want to do that. I know there's a concern about litigation. I think that if you reflect on this and look at the issues as I've described them, the fact that I do not have a material defect with my bid, that I did submit on bid day a complete and responsive bid with my sublist, with my bond. I am properly licensed and I am qualified to do this job. And you guys, obviously the city received a very competitive bid, that the correct thing to do is to award it. And let us go on with the next step of this process and to build the project. And I wish I was here not having to defend myself and my company over these issues. I wish I was here tonight to thank you just for the opportunity to bid this project, and looking forward to the opportunity to build it for you. I still hope for that. It's not my intent to come here and get involved in angry arguments or threatening issues, but I'll tell you, I put a lot of effort. My company, all of my employees put a lot of effort in bidding this project. All of my subcontractors who bid to me put a lot of effort into bidding this project. And it would be irresponsible of me to walk away from this project without taking every step that I have available to me, every recourse that I have available to me to protect the integrity of the bid process. We submitted the low qualified responsive bid. And we just ask that the bid process be honored and that you award the project, and we would look forward to working with you in building this project. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. My name
Yes,
is,
state your name for us,
my
please.
name is Ryan Hingel. I am the attorney for Eckert Commercial Construction, Inc. Mr. Eckert has already pointed out that the city staff has claimed that his bid was non-responsive on two particular issues. He's already clarified that the tot lot issue was a miscommunication and that he never intended to use them as a subcontractor, which would be paid more than 0.5% of the entire job. Second issue has to deal with his alleged failure to list 3 particular jobs in the state of California which had the same complexity and size as this current job. Well, if one looks at the city's request, failing to list, or the requirement, it's not a requirement to list 3 jobs. Let's take a look at the specific language in this particular request. It says, list up to 5 prior projects completed by the bidder, at least 3 of which must be within the state of California, each with a construction value of not less than $500,000, which are of similar size, character, and complexity of the project which the bid is submitted. And this is the qualifying language. If no such similar projects have been completed, mark none. My client listed 4, 2 of which were in the state of California. City claims that that was non-responsive. However, by reading the plain language of the city's document, he could have marked none, and that wouldn't be considered non-responsive. If listing 3 jobs in California requirement, the request for proposal should have said so in plain and unambiguous language. Furthermore, this alleged requirement should have been discussed at the mandatory pre-bid meeting. It was not. However, although the city has claimed that my client's bid, who he was the low responsible bidder, was materially non-conforming, and prior to tonight was going to recommend Duggan's bid, a cursory review of Duggan's bid has demonstrated that it was non-conforming. More specifically, they had submitted 2 contradictory subcontractors lists in complete violation of the Subletting and Subcontracting Fair Practices Act. Mr. Eckert has made a very good argument as to why the now current recommendation for city staff to reject all bids and to go back out to the bidding process should not be followed. The only people that's going to hurt are their local subcontractors. Therefore, we are requesting that Mr. Eckert, or Eckert's commercial construction bid, which was the low responsible bidder, be accepted. In the alternative, however, if the city feels that Mr. Eckert's qualifications are in question because of the alleged failure to list 3 subcontractors, or 3 prior jobs, we are requesting an evidentiary hearing to determine whether or not he is qualified to do the job pursuant to the California Supreme Court ruling in Inglewood versus Superior Court of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. It's getting late,
Yes,
so
it
I
is,
won't
but
take a
we're
lot of your
going to
time.
give you-
Appreciate
but,
you guys hanging out and talking to us.
Yeah, this is our night to hang out.
Yes. My name is Russell Robin. I'm Vice President of Duggan's Construction, and I would like to disagree with some of the statements made about our bid. I believe if you look at the bid documents that we submitted 1 subcontractors list. What was missing was a signature page that went along with that subcontractors list. So At the request of staff, we pulled that signature page together and mistakenly added an old sublist that was something that was preliminary to the deal to them. That was after the bid opening. The bid document had everything except one page missing, a signature page to a subcontract list. So your own bid documents state that you guys can waive irregularities in the bid, and that is a minor irregularity. So it's our position, just like it's his position, that we think that you should stick with the original decision to award us the job based on two things. Number one, we feel we're the lowest responsible bidder, and number two is we are a local company that employs 75 people in Imperial County, of which all of them will work on this job. And 80% of the subcontractors on this particular project are local. And those people will be employed on this job. And the tax dollars that you guys are spending to build this very nice facility will stay in Imperial County, in the state of California, and not be spent in Yuma, Arizona. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Gentlemen, you've heard the comments coming from our city attorney. We were allowed the opportunity to hear the testimony from the three gentlemen. It's the city attorney's view and opinion that we would be wise not to enter into any discussion in an open session environment contemplating any potential litigation. So, Ms. Becker, do you have anything else to add for us?
I think that the council has...
We have an action to take, but
you have
I mean,
action to take, and I think that you have 4 options that you can choose from. I think your first option is to adopt staff's recommendation, reject all bids, and go back out. I think you can, well, maybe you have 5. I think you can award the bid to Eckerd Commercial Construction as the lowest responsible and responsive bidder. I think you can award the bid to reject the bid of, number 3, reject the bid of Eckerd Construction as non-responsive and award it to Duggan's Construction as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Or number 4, you can give Eckerd Construction the non-responsibility hearing that they requested in the alternative to awarding them the bid. So I guess that is 4 options.
And that's what what was given to our staff, our city attorney, and assessing the issues, not necessarily about these bidders. I mean, recall that you know what the estimated cost of this project is and the limited funds we have on it. So rather than going through the process of that determination, is that we recommend that without cause is to exercise your right to reject all bids as indicated by the city attorney and recommended by my staff.
And just so that the council's comfortable with it, there's no legal obligation to give a reason to reject all bids. It's completely within your discretion to do so for any reason or no reason at all.
No, and we recommend that for no reason because we don't want to get into that because there's myriad, we would be in a whole different process.
I think the council has heard tonight a variety of potential reasons, but I will if a member of the council has a question for staff at this time regarding this issue, I will certainly allow time for you to make sure that you're clear and comfortable with whatever decision we're going to make tonight. Mr. Silva?
Chris, so if the council was to exercise the first option to reject all bids, no reason stated, we will go back and rebid the project.
Yes.
In that scenario, neither Mr. Eckerd or Mr. Duggins or anybody else would have any grounds for litigation.
Potentially.
We can't prevent anybody from bringing a legal action against us.
If we opted for either option 2 or 3 to award, that would definitely create some grounds for litigation from the unhappy party.
I believe that is correct. I think that there would be a stronger case for either one of them if you went with options 2 or 3.
Did, I don't know, if you can't answer this, please tell me that you can't answer this. But did any of the arguments that were presented by both Mr. Russell and Eckert make you change your opinion in any way?
I'm sorry, was it?
Make you change your opinion in any way?
I believe that the appropriate response for that is the potential for litigation surrounding the answer to that question would prohibit me from wanting to discuss it,
Okay.
preclude me from discussing it in open session.
I'm sorry.
Any questions for staff as points of clarity so that the ultimate decision that we will make tonight, you will have some level of comfort with it? Feel comfortable? Mr. Jackson, any questions? No? Okay. Then you've heard from staff. We've also heard the testimony of 3 individuals. We have an item before us with several options. So, gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
With great regret, I will move that we reject all bids and rebid. Do we have a resolution number that would be tied to that? Would it be 1299 or?
No, this will be just a motion to
we're
reject.
Just
Just
taking
a
action
motion
to
to
reject.
And we will
right?
have to come back to you with the new bid documents for approval.
Okay.
And the
There-
time frame for that, just to,
Call it in October. We'll just bring it back to you when they're ready. It'll take a couple months.
There's a motion on the floor. I mean, there is a entertainment for a motion on the floor. I need a second. The motion is to reject all bids by Mr. Jackson.
Second.
Is that a second from Mr. Silva? Will ballot, please?
The motion carries 4-0.
Gentlemen, those of you who came before us and spoke, we thank you very much for coming forward. We appreciate your interest in doing business in the city of El Centro. And thank you for your patience in waiting with us this late at night. Does anyone on the council need to just take a minute to stretch? No? Just power through it. I think I have some items to add, do I not?
Yes.
So, yes, so I will, I tell you what, yeah, wonderful.
We could do that following your 19.
This is the last item, then we have information, then we'll add those other items. I think, gentlemen, you've seen in your packet backup material of the particular individuals who are interested in being considered for appointments. And we have 2 that are incumbents, wish to be reappointed to the hospital board, and several on the list for consideration. We had 2 for reappointments on the Community Service Commission and several on the list for consideration. So for the hospital board, I am prepared to entertain the motion for a reappointment of Amanda Brooke, Dr. Charles Humphrey, and for the new appointee, Joe Picasso.
I move for the mayor's appointments.
I'll second.
Moved by Silva, second by Jackson for the appointments for the hospital board.
Joe will be good.
The motion carries 4-0.
And for the Community Service Commission, reappointment of Rich Ryan and Robin Dodge.
Move for the mayor's appointments.
Second.
Thank you.
carries 4-0.
I might add, when I spoke with Dr. Humphrey tonight, I reminded him that we did have a term limit scenario that applied to hospital board members, and he has now reached that time. This will be his last opportunity for appointment to the hospital board. He recognized that and will be appreciative of consideration for this reappointment. We move forward for, let's see, the Redevelopment Housing Agency. There's nothing. Informational items 20 through 25. Public comments. The gentleman is no longer with us, is he? Bless his heart. The City Council welcomes your input, and at this time, members of the public may address the City Council on any matter not listed on the posted agenda. Pursuant to the Brown Act, no action will be taken on any issue brought forth under this public comments. Please complete a speaker slip and submit to the City Clerk at the start of the meeting. Unless the mayor extends their time limit, it will be 3 minutes for each public presentation. We have that gentleman that was in the audience, I think, has left. I don't see him. Okay. Nobody's interested in a recess?
No.
Any task force reports? We're ready to add some items. Ms. Beckert, help me out with the items we need to add, please.
Okay, while you're still convened as the City Council, you need to make a motion to add an emergency item based on the fact that the need to take action arose after the agenda was posted, and action cannot reasonably wait until the next.
And which
meeting.
one is that? Or just all, can I do all of them, all of these, or City Council, or some of the successor agency?
Do we get copies of that?
Yeah, they had them.
Okay, we're going to walk you through some steps if you do, because it's going to involve the 3 agencies.
Okay, well then, I think, can we add them all blanketly? Can we add all
No,
of them?
because it's 3 different agencies.
Okay, so which ones do we add?
Okay, so since we're still as the City Council, we'll go ahead and add the one item to the City Council, which is the item that addresses the loan to the successor agency and the successor housing agency by the City Council.
Yes, the subject line says city loan to successor agency at the top.
Yes.
Should be at the top of your pile.
Yes, I see.
That's the action, and this is to create a loan in the event that there is not insufficient funds to cover the following costs you're going to talk about, because the state may actually short us, and this is a way we can start recouping our costs in the future, the costs that the state's requiring. Now, as you recall, there was some offer in AB 26 that there was going to be a $250,000 administrative funds to handle all these matters. Well, now apparently there's not going to be enough money, but there is an opportunity for the city to loan the successor agency funds to perform these tasks, and later on we can be reimbursed.
All right. Oh, excuse me.
And that's the personal request, is that this loan be...
I'm so sorry.
That this loan be approved as
Fatigue
recommended by
set in.
staff. Ms. Piazza,
We need to have a motion to add.
oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, motion to add.
Yes, we're just trying to add, Mr. Duran. Thank you very much.
Wish you had the right one.
I'll move that we add the
Okay.
additional. Are we doing all of them together?
No, we
No,
can't.
just the one, we have to do one for
Just
the
the
city.
one.
I'll move that we add.
Sorry about that.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Jackson, second by Mr. Silva, to add the item that as it relates to the loan, and this was because the item came up after the agenda had been posted. Ballot, please.
Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, now we can proceed with the discussion on this item.
Okay. And as I gave as a precursor, Ms. Piazza, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes.
Actually, the emergency item you just added includes 2 actions. One is, and the reason being is because we are dealing with 2 separate entities relating to the dissolved redevelopment agency. As pointed out in staff's recommendation, under city manager's recommendation, one of the loans is a city loan to the successor housing agency, to the Centro redevelopment agency, in an amount not to exceed $10,000 to contract with a licensed accountant approved by the county auditor controller to conduct an agreed upon procedures audit of the low and moderate income housing fund balance of the dissolved agency. Now, this audit is due by October the 1st of this year, and thereby the urgency to initiate this process. The second item relates to approving a city loan to the successor housing to the successor agency, to the El Centro redevelopment agency, in an amount not to exceed $10,000 to contract again with a licensed accountant approved by the county auditor to conduct an audit for the low moderate income housing funds. If you recall, in the redevelopment budget, we had 5 funds that were set up to administer the funds that we were receiving under redevelopment. Basically, with the implementation and approval of AB 1484, we're required to conduct these 2 audits. And as you can see, there's the really definitive deadlines that we have according to AB 1484 that the Department of Finance has established. In order to proceed with this, we need also the concurrence of the county auditor in order to be able to start these audits. So the loans that are being recommended by staff to be made are to conduct these audits. And as Mr. Duran pointed out, there is the possibility that we might not receive reimbursement through the regular administrative costs that the Dissolution Act, which is AB 26 that dissolved agencies, we might not be able to recover those funds. And we included in your staff report, and I know you just received this report, but in there is a letter from the Department of Finance dated July 11th, 2012, that points out these deadlines that we have to comply with per AB 1484. And it also includes under the section dealing with incentives and penalties that the city that became the successor agency has the ability to, if we comply with certain actions that the Department of Finance requires, might be able to recover loans that were made by the city in order to meet these requirements. Now, in order for us to be able to do that and recognize it, we need to include this loan in the recognized obligation payment schedule. Which
in our ROPS.
In our ROPS, that's correct. And that the next period that we're covering in our ROPS has to be presented to the Oversight Board before September 1st. So again, you see the urgency of having to add these items and take action tonight in order to be able to recognize these two loans in our recognized obligation payment schedule.
Okay. Gentlemen, do you have any questions regarding the presentation made by Mrs. Pedra and the introduction made by Mr. Duran regarding why this is necessary and the urgency that's attached to it?
Mayor, there is one small typo. It's on the city manager's recommendation,
Yes,
which
that's
is
correct.
what your, would you go ahead and give them the correction on that?
Yes, for item number 2, it should read approved city loan to successor agency, not housing agency. That's an oversight. The first one is to the successor housing agency.
And the other is just to the successor agency?
And to the successor agency, that's correct.
And did the city clerk, will you modify those? Okay. And we will get a cleanup copy presented when? Who will make the cleanup copy? She'll just make the cleanup copy, and do I have to sign this thing later on in the...
No, it's just, we're just seeking
taking action.
direction. We just need a motion for to
All right,
approve.
it's just direction.
Motion to approve the
I'll
agreement.
move to approve city manager's recommendation on item number 1 and 2.
It's been moved by Jackson, second by Solomon.
As corrected by staff.
Okay, as corrected by staff, thank you. Ballot, please.
Motion carries.
Okay.
Okay, the next item
I'll try to
that
continue
we need to add.
So now what we need to do is we need to adjourn as the city council and convene as the successor agency.
Okay, so do we adjourn or recess? Do we come back into city
We're gonna
council?
come back. We may come back, just let's leave it.
So we'll do a recess from city council and come in as the successor agency. Now, which one of the items is this one? Oh, it's the duplicate.
There's 2 items that we need to add. We need 2 motions, or I guess we could just do it under one motion, but there's 2 items that we need to add. The first is to
Accept them.
Accept the loan.
Accept the loan.
accept the loan.
To accept the loan, yeah.
And then the second is to give the finance department authorization to contract with the accountant to do the audit.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved by Jackson, second by Silva. This is to add, is it not?
Yes.
Okay, ballot, please. Now, do we need some
hold on.
discussion?
No.
I'm sorry.
He's tired, he's ready to go.
Now you gotta take that.
Oh, gosh. Have a piece of candy or something.
Where's your vote?
I don't think we need discussion, do we? I'll just move
No.
to accept city manager's recommendation to accept the loan that we just previously
Okay.
made action on.
I need a second, please, gentlemen.
Second.
Okay, it's moved by Jackson, second by Solomon and Silva. Ballot, please. Okay. Now,
Right. That's
did
what
we,
Mr. Jackson? That was
Okay,
Yes,
there
for
there
both,
is
both items.
both.
I'm sorry, I should-
To
Oh,
accept
one
the-
action,
We should
one,
take separate action.
we should take separate
Oh,
action.
separate actions.
Okay, to clarify,
Rescind that, and then we'll go back.
This is just to accept the loan for the successor agency.
okay.
Okay.
We have to do this in
So,
steps.
so you want me to rescind the first motion?
Yep, we have to.
Okay. So I'll move to accept the loan for the El Centro Successor Housing Agency.
Is that what they're in now?
Yeah.
I need a second, gentlemen. Okay, moved by Jackson, second by Solomon, to rescind, to accept the loan for the city of El Centro to the successor agency, the successor housing agency. Ballot, please.
I'm sorry, it's successor
It's the
agency.
successor- We're in the successor
Oh, this
agency.
is-
Successor agency.
Okay.
Is this where we have a misprinting of?
No,
No, you
this is
have
correct.
one that said, Ms. Piedra, read the sentence.
It's two, and I know this is very confusing, but
Well, yes, I'm
we have two
confused.
separate entities that we're dealing with when it comes to the dissolution of redevelopment. We have the successor agency, but then we have the successor housing agency, and that's why you see the items are identical. They're basically the same action,
Minus
but
one.
one is you're taking it for the successor agency,
And one we're taking-
and one is for strictly for housing.
So would you like me to take the successor agency first?
Yes.
That's what you're
So
in
do
now.
I
You're
need to-
you're in the successor agency right now. You've
Do I
made a
need
motion
make
to
any
accept the
motion
loan,
to
which is
rescind
passed.
anything we've already done?
Well, they couldn't have taken
It
the
was-
action
it
anyway
could-
because
it
your
was just,
successor
we
agency
were
got
getting
the
ready to
blue
pass
hat on
it.
now.
All right, then I'll move to accept the loan from the City of El Centro to the successor agency.
Okay. Second by Solomon. Moved by Jackson, second by Solomon. Ballot, please.
Now we'll go
Wait a
to,
minute.
I have a no from
Well, that was my no, but I didn't.
everybody's going to get one tonight.
Yeah, Mr. Sylvia,
I
come
can't
on, you're
vote,
the only
though.
one.
Yours
motion
wouldn't.
carries 4-0.
Now,
Okay.
if we're going to go and,
Okay.
we're going to
No, we need-
adjourn to the housing.
No.
We
No,
need the
a
other
second
action
motion
for
to
We need the second one.
authorization to the finance department to
Oh,
do
you're
the
right.
action,
retain the
yes.
auditor.
We can do that.
I'll
now.
move
Contract
to-
with the
I'll
license.
move to authorize Finance Department staff of the City of El Centro to contract with the licensed accountant approved by the county auditor controller in the amount not to exceed $10,000.
Second.
Moved by Jackson, second by Silva. Ballot, please.
That motion
Now
carries
we-
4-0.
Okay. Have we added everything that we needed to add?
Yes. So now I believe we can adjourn as the
To the
successor
successor
agency.
housing agency.
And then convene as the successor housing agency.
Okay, okay, so we're now into the successor housing agency. I very much appreciate you navigating me through this.
I'll move
feel
to
like I'm
add,
in a
I'll move
maze.
to add the item for the successor housing agency.
Both items.
Both items.
Moved by Jackson,
Both
and
items.
second by Solomon. We're adding both items to the successor agency, successor housing agency.
Sorry, who said Mr. Solomon?
Solomon, Ballot, please.
The motion carries.
Okay,
I'll move to accept City Manager's recommendation to accept loan from City of El Centro to successor housing agency.
bravo. Second, please. Okay, moved by Jackson, second by Solomon. Ballot, please.
That motion carries 4-0.
Motion to authorize Finance Department and staff of El Centro to contract with a licensed accountant approved by the county auditor controller in the amount not to exceed $10,000.
I need a second. Okay, moved by Jackson, second by Solomon. Ballot, please.
That motion carries 4-0.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any additional
Nothing adjourned.
items to come before the council, the successor agency, the successor housing agency,
And the city.
and the city? Is there anything else that we need to, is there any other business that we need to attend to? Oh, I'm sorry. Gentlemen, do you wish to have any reports? Are you ready to go home? I think we will omit reports.
Adjourned?
And I want, yes, we're adjourned. Thank all of you for your patience, and thank you for staying with us through the duration of this meeting.